Welcome to the MSP Corner podcast. Before we kick off our show, we would like to share what our main objective is at the MSP Corner. Our main goal is to help CEOs build profitable and self-sustainable IT service firms. We are not just providing tools for IT firms, we will be sitting in meetings with you to ensure your IT firm stays on track. The first area we are focused on, strategic sales. IT firms are stuck selling technology or IT support. We will provide you with the blueprint so you position your firm as an added value to your prospects. We will have framework on how to sell value so you influence the prospect into selecting your firm. The second area we see many IT firms struggle in is marketing. 90+% of businesses rely on antiquated marketing methods. The most popular choice, word of mouth. We have proven methods on how to attract the ideal prospect. Our framework will include how to become the online authority and be the business influencer for an industry. The third component to our package, scaling. IT firms walk away from opportunities because they lack the bandwidth or skill set to scale. We have lined up reputable businesses so our members can hire on-demand resources that will allow them to scale their business. The fourth area we will offer help in, selecting the right tools. In order to deliver value, you need the right tech stack. Our platform will offer information on products that are the ideal choice for MSPs. The fifth area we will offer help in is with documentation. Templates are a critical component when building an MSP. We will have contracts, proposals, SOWs, collateral, and much more in the template section. You will have every document you need to start up your managed IT service business. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go to our next podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Expert Corner. We decided to record this show because it's only going to be Gregory and I speaking, but the goal for the Expert Corner is to provide MSPs a venue or a forum and for them to join us and discuss their challenges, questions we could answer on, hey, what would we do differently, or what would we have done differently, knowing what we know now, had we done this 20 years ago? So there's all kinds of scenarios that people might want to discuss, such as marketing, selling value. Does cold calling work? Does email marketing work? Should you have a newsletter set up? What should be on your email signature? I mean, the topics are on and on. Tech stack. What tech stack should you have in place? So Gregory and I are ready and we're experienced, right? We bring that expertise to MSPs who have growing pains, who have struggles scaling, who are leaving money on the table because they can't scale. I mean, these are really challenging times for some organizations, and Gregory and I are here to discuss them and provide you guys with guidance so you can make business decisions that are going to benefit your organization. So Greg, what topic do you want to start on today? And because we'll publish this on the podcast so people get a full understanding as to what our objectives are on the MSP Corner. And now that we've started another show called the Expert Corner, what did you want to discuss today? Maybe a tech stack, maybe your tools you're working with that have made life easier for you and the team.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of topics like marketing, sales, tech stack, retention of technicians, scheduling, time tracking, training. I mean, there's so many things that you need to have in place. Do you have a SOC? Do you have a NOC? Do you have a help desk? Do you have field engineers? What tools are you using to optimize everything? Are you leveraging AI possibly to be help you in any way, like with your SIM or your EDR, or a lot of these tools have AI now that will help you produce repetitive tasks. But there's so many things that we can advise on because we've done it all before like a dozen times. So going to this particular expert corner is we're gonna talk about anything you want to talk about, anything you think you need advice on. And I find a lot of people uh, don't really know how to sell or market themselves. So that's gonna be really good for you. And then people who don't know what the best choices are for technology and implementation and operations is going to be my area. So we can handle the load, of sales, marketing, and operations, and how to increase your MRR and all that stuff.
Well, one topic that I left out was, and I see this a lot on Reddit, I see it a lot in Facebook, and these are questions as to how much should you charge, right? Because these guys are delivering a if when you're delivering a managed service model, you have to do things at a fixed price. Clients want predictability. And if you plan to close more business, you need to determine what these costs are going to be. And you and I have sat down for hours discussing this and what those costs should be. So, that's another pain point for a lot of firms that are like, they're nervous. They're nervous. They're like, are we going to lose money if we charge this much per user or per endpoint or per server? And based on the numbers that we do, and based on numbers that what it takes to support an environment, you can make an environment very low maintenance if you follow best practices. So, Greg, let's unpack that, because if you plan on delivering a fixed cost model that includes unlimited maintenance and support, and let me emphasize maintenance and support, because this does not include one-offs or projects. This is just maintenance and support and monitoring if you're monitoring servers. So can we unpack that and determine, okay, look, even if, how do you feel about this? Because this is a sticking point for me. If I land a new client and I come to you and I say, hey, Greg, here's the statement of work, here's the deliverables, this is what we're going to be charging each month, et cetera, et cetera. You look at the cost and you're like, okay, $5,000 a month. Okay, no big deal. All right, it's a 30-40 person office. You then go to the next phase, which is the evaluation phase. So now you go in there, right? You go in there, the client's already signed a contract. So I want to just paint a picture for these guys. You go in there because you haven't seen the environment. We've also added a clause in the agreement that says, hey, we have the option to revisit these costs, because I don't want you walking into a business that has landmines every corner of the building, right? You're like, ooh, this is a 10-year-old server on Windows 2003 or whatever, right? These computers are 6+ years old, and you come out of there already with the assumption that it's going to be a high maintenance environment. And you can come out of there and say, this is not going to be a profitable account, right? So do you want to would you want me to go back and renegotiate that contract, or do you want to stick to that price?
Well, let's go back a little further.
Okay.
So you are an IT solutions provider, right? You have one customer. Let's make it really simple. You're an IT solutions provider. You have one customer. You have, let's just make everything really simple. We'll just say one of each of everything. And we'll just cut out a lot of other things that you don't possibly need, like VPs and directors or whatever. It's just going to be one dude, me.
Okay.
So I have me, and so my let's talk about what I am at the end, because that's going to be really fluid for small businesses and owners and stuff like that. So say I have a building, say I have an office, and it's $300 a month, right?
Yep.
And say I have a CRM tool and an RMM tool. Let's just not break out all the tool costs. Let's just say all the tools every month cost me $100, and I have a $300 rent, $400, right?
Yep.
And say I have a technician at the site, and or just me, because it's just me, so we'll skip that. But say I have a whole bunch of other expenses, like an accountant, some Office 365, all my other expenses that I can't get rid of, I can't do anything about. I might have to have them to be in business, my website cost, those all equal another $100. So I have $500 worth of expenses, right?
Yep.
And say my customer is, a customer that uses me for 5 hours a month at $100 an hour. So all of my money that I get from the customer basically goes to pay for my expenses, leaving no money left over for me, right? I get
Yep.
zero.
Yep.
Now, in your world, in Fernando's world, you think I should raise prices on that customer so I can earn money, right?
Yep.
But that's
Yep.
not how it works in the real world. You have to take into account that the customer is probably paying you market rate for your work. So you don't want to alter and modify your contracts or your how you do business based on, your bottom line and what your expenses are, unless you're not making enough money.
Yep.
Or you're making under, you're just making around the same amount you're charging, and you haven't changed your prices for a while, and like inflation is occurred, or the marketplace has surged, or you have to keep your eye on the market. How do you do that? You can really just, Google, use Google, ask your friends that might be in the same type of business you are, what their rates are at any given day. You'll find that a lot of people will escalate their rates, but you don't want to modify your rates based on your profits and expenses unless you just haven't modified them for quite a long time. The reason you got those jobs was because of your rate. And if you raise your rate, you may lose that job. So you want to be really careful. Pricing is a super sensitive area, and as you know, it is like the number one thing that people are looking for when they hire you. They don't really care about your capabilities and anything else as much as they care about pricing. They do care about all those things, but they also care more and more about pricing. They feel like they want to get the lowest possible price, which is like how our human mentalities are. And you go against that sometimes by saying, "Look, you get what you pay for," right?
Yeah.
If you pay for, you say you want champagne on a beer budget. Everybody wants that. It's not like it's something different for me than it is for you. Everyone wants a champagne on a beer budget. What you should do in those scenarios is give them beer labeled champagne.
Well, let me interject just a little bit.
All right,
Let me just interject,
interject.
because I go to a lot of webinars, and a lot of these guys are touting a lot. They're talking a lot of crap. Okay. And you know who I'm talking about. We don't need to mention his name, but we don't need to be plugging anybody's company at no
No, you're
cost.
right. I hate mentioning the enemies.
Okay. I will tell you this, and you give me your honest opinion. Let's say I walk into an organization. Let's say it's a medical office. Okay. And I am the expert working with medical offices because I've illustrated a lot of experience with HIPAA compliance, security, their environment based on their SaaS products. I just know everything about them, right? And let's say I'm competing with two other firms that they're not that great with medical offices, right? There's no way to know that. I have no idea if they have experience or they don't have. If I don't know if they have experience with medical offices or if they don't, right? There's no insider information, and this is where I think a lot of this charge this much because you're going to you can charge this much because you're the expert in this area, and this is where I call BS. It's like, you could be competing with your competitor can have just as much experience as you do, or they don't, right? Because you don't know who you're competing with. The prospect just tells you, yeah, I'm interviewing two or three other MSPs, and whoever you know provides us with the right price or whatever their main driving forces are, will win the business. So you have no idea what that cost is, what who you're competing with. And what I'm saying to all these young guys that are starting businesses is you got to go in there with a fair price. It's got to be fair. It can't be expensive. It can't be you can't be charging $1,000 per endpoint. I mean, we're talking a fair price that's not too expensive, but not too cheap. Because when you're too cheap, then you're really not valuing your skill set, your organization. So, and you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. Just be prepared to lose it. And if you win it, great. You won it. Now you're going to have a great weekend. But how do you feel about that approach of pricing something out based on what's your company's the value you bring to that organization? You may not win all of them, but what percentage is acceptable to you as the CEO of an MSSP? What if we talk to 100 companies a month, what percentage would you say this percentage we won 10% of the business or 20% of the business or 30% of the business? What is acceptable to you for winning, right?
Yeah, those whole the other companies that talk about how to sell, and that you gotta your price, you can price your pro. I mean, we've heard these webinars, we listened to them together. They're telling you to price things out as high as possible, basically. What does as possible mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what you can't tell someone's internal barometer for a price, right?
Yeah,
Like, I've been to thousands of garage sales. I've sold stuff, and someone's held some like a bag up, and I've gone $5, and they said no, I don't want this bag, even though it's worth like $100. But my wife might say to another person $20, and they might grab it and take it. It's like
yeah,
you don't know what price someone's willing to pay for something unless they tell you, I'm looking for this person, and then you and I both know whoever says the number first loses, and that's why. Because then
yeah,
you go, oh Snoop, I was going to sell this for $10 and he wants it for 20.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
people, and smart people don't tell price numbers first.
yep,
uh but if you have to, like we have to, we have no luxury of going, well, what are you willing to pay? And they're going to
yeah,
be like, okay, I'm willing to pay $85 an hour for this. And we're going to be like, no, sorry, goodbye. Or are we going to go, yeah, I'll lower my price from 125, which I normally charge everyone else, to you to 85 for no
yeah,
reason
yeah, yeah.
other than you want to pay less. I mean, if that were the case, I would get free internet and free phone service and a free rent at my house, right? Because I'd be like, I want to pay $1.
Yeah,
It's a take it or leave it world, and you can't tell. You can't go to a person and go, okay, Fernando, I'm going to charge you $124.95. Is that okay? And you're like, nope, and you're out. And it's like, whoa, I meant $120.85. Oh yes, I'll take that. It's like, holy smokes, I just screwed a whole deal up over $4.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't you have no idea. And all these people who say, all these other influencers who are saying charge the most, you're not charging enough. I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, how do you know what enough is? You don't.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then there's that. I see the philosophy too of the fact that what I explained earlier, say you have $500 in expenses a month and you're looking for customers, you have $0 of revenue, a customer comes along willing to pay you $250, do you take them?
Well, let's go back to that scenario I just discussed. I came up with. I have a client that signs a contract that says we're going to maintain his environment at this cost. You go in, you evaluate, you're like, ooh, there's a lot of gaps here, right? There's a lot of projects. You can come out of there and say, hey, Fernando, we can't support this environment if they upgrade their current environment because it's just a mess. It's going to be too high maintenance. We're going to lose money. What do you do in that scenario? What if the client says, nope, we're not going to fill the gaps because we don't have the budget? Do we walk away?
Yeah, do we? Do we? Can we? Should we?
Well,
Is are we going to be in business tomorrow if we do or don't?
let's say we have the luxury of walking away. But my question to you is this: what do we tell a client that expects us to take care of an environment that is going to be high maintenance and they are they have gaps, they have they have problems? I mean, I can go back to them and say that because I know how to position these type of problems. I would go back to the CEO and say, hey, Mr. CEO, we've done an evaluation of your environment, and based on our discovery, you need to upgrade your servers and switches and computers. And he's going to say, well, we don't have the budget. I'm going to say, and this is what I'm going to say to him. Well, if you want, if you don't want to have problems, right? If you want your people always on tech support calls instead of being productive employees, making the company money, then yeah, don't upgrade. Don't have an unstable environment, right? I go, if you want an unproductive organization, if you want to have employees be having more problems or having not being able to accomplish their work, yeah, that's the way things are going to operate. And we can solve your problems and maintain your environment, but this thing is on life support, right? You're going to have to, if you're going to want to renew the life of this environment, you're going to have to do some upgrades. And we can phase it in, right? We can do the server environment first, and then next month we can do the computers and then the firewalls and switches, but it has to be done. What do you think about that conversation?
Well, let's go back to a customer we had a long time ago when we were newbies. And we would say to people, server support.
Yeah.
We will do server support for
Yep.
you.
Yep.
And they would be like, okay, um, my server needs to have a new OS installed. And we'd be like, okay, that sounds not so hard. And then they go, well, I also need you to install and configure the 25 applications that are on here. And we're like, they're very intricate and, they all have many hours. We've had tech spend days, weeks, months of their time on site configuring a server, and we're making $120 a
Yeah.
month doing
Yeah.
server maintenance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like, well, we're not. We lost a ton of money. And if going back to the customer, you say, hey, this isn't included in server maintenance. Well, guess what? What is? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know. We don't even know. We just said server maintenance because that's what everyone else says.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
else says server maintenance, but we didn't have a discussion with anyone telling them, okay, this is what this means.
Yeah.
Server maintenance means we'll patch it, we'll restore it if it's broken, but we won't install a new OS. We won't configure your systems. We won't, check connectivity issues. We are just here to to patch the server basically. It's almost like you have to change the word server maintenance to server patching, right? In
Yeah.
order to get your point across.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so we've lost incredible sums of money being vague to get the champagne, to the champagne customer
Yeah.
who's paying beer prices, and we allowed it because we said, okay, they go, we want the champagne and we want it for the beer price, and we went, okay, not understanding on our own side that that was a disaster
Yeah.
waiting to happen, that it was like you made a boo-boo,
Yeah. Yeah.
because now they're coming to you going, I thought that server maintenance meant you'd reinstall the OS. And the technician on site, what does he say? Well, paragraph 7 of your contract says that operating systems are separate. They don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know what
Yeah.
they don't have the faintest idea what our contracts say. The technicians, they don't, because we don't show it to them, because we don't want them to see how much we're charging the customer versus how much they're making, because
Yeah.
then they could leverage us and say, well, you're charging this customer 5,000 a month. I want 4,000 of it, or
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll quit. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh man, never
Yeah.
show him a
Yeah.
contract again, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you really have to create, not only do you have to have a contract, but you have to create some sort of dialogue. And that's why, especially in the Silicon Valley, it's so hard to have dialogue with a customer. Like, I was talking to a customer earlier, and they were like, okay, you guys are failing. And you're like, okay, how are we failing? Well, someone complained about your service. And I was like, well, has anybody else complained in like the last 7 months? No. So this one complaint from this customer now is indicative that we are failing. You have no metrics, you have no reporting, you have no historical, no complaints in the last 6 months, but this month you had one. So you're turning to me saying, this is how I'm going to present this to you. You're failing.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like, if you don't have a relationship with that person, you can't say, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not failing. I'm succeeding. And
Yeah.
one complaint actually means that possibly there's a problem, or possibly the user side of it is at fault. And
Yeah.
there's a misunderstanding or something. I want there to be problems at accounts, because if it's quiet, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. It's this business model is, there's a term out there that a lot of these influencers, these these qualified influencers love to throw a word out there. It's called don't commodify yourself. And I agree with the term, but it's easier said than done, right? Because once you commoditize yourself, you're just going to blend in with all the other IT firms, because you're nothing different. And this is what I want to encourage people to do. Become an expert in a specific industry, but don't expect to charge these outrageous costs, because some prospects might be okay with not working with the expert for their industry, right? Because their price the price plays a big influence on making their choice, right? Because you don't know what their budget is, you don't know how tight things are. It can come down to that, and that's why I want these guys to join these calls, because we can give them better guidance when it comes to pricing themselves out. In your experience also, you can provide that level of expertise, so these guys can make educated decisions on what they should charge. Because the same a business in Kentucky, Biloxi, Kentucky. I think Biloxi is Biloxi in Kentucky or Mississippi.
Uh, I'm not sure.
I think it's in Mississippi. But anyways,
It's in Mississippi. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
their prices, their expectations for, their cost of living is a lot less expensive than California. So their pricing is going to be different, right? You can't be charging California rates to a business in Biloxi because they have their own,
Market.
they have their own market. So you got to really think this through on what your rates are going to be. So, but I think these are really easy problems to solve. It's just you got to be talking to the right people in order to make these decisions. So, but these are these conversations need to happen. These guys need help. There, there's a lot of enthusiastic entrepreneurs that are getting in the IT industry, and it's an exciting industry. It's constantly growing. There's a demand for it regardless of where you are. There's this demand. I mean, everybody needs IT support. There's just no way around it. You can try and do a lot of the things yourself, but at the end of the day, if you want your business to not have problems, you need to hire experienced people that can deliver, because it's not it's become a lot. Would you say it's become a lot more complex, the infrastructures that we're maintaining now?
Absolutely. Not complex, but different. In a complex in a different way,
Okay.
because it's now cloud has dominated everything.
Yeah, it has. And it's so they're different conversations, but you can leave yourself open to attacks. A lot of companies assume that, oh, it's in the cloud, doesn't need to be backed up, right? We don't need a disaster recovery policy. The SaaS provider provides this for us. Well, you still need a disaster recovery policy in place, because let's say your office gets flooded and all your computers are need to be rebuilt or whatever, reimaged. There's You need a plan for that. So there's I would say the cloud has made life different or easier for the IT industry.
Different, not
Different,
easier.
not easier. All right,
Well,
but
here's a question for you.
yeah,
W- Water. You go buy water at the store.
yeah,
Why do you buy? What do you buy? Do you buy a brand?
no, I specifically avoid the brands.
Now, if you were to buy water, what would you take into account? Because water is like our service. It's not really, it's tasteless, right? It's IT services.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, it's the same thing. Printer, if I ask you to fix my printer, it's not like I'm going to ask any different question to any different engineer. I'm just going to say my printer is broken to every single one that comes along.
Yeah.
It could be just a line of 1,000 engineers, and I would say the same exact thing to every single one of them. My printer's broken, or I can't print. I'm not gonna, the 3501 guy isn't gonna go, I'm here with a different way of doing this. He's not gonna do that. So, a lot of people I ask, what waters do you buy? And they say, well, I think the taste of, Fuji is better. And I'm
Yeah,
all, water has no taste.
yeah,
If you're
yeah,
tasting something in your water, that's probably not a good sign
yeah. I
that your
agree.
water tastes like anything. But
Yes.
people have in their mind that the water tastes better if it has a different packaging on it, in my opinion. That's why they like it. They're
Well,
attracted to the packaging.
sure, and this all comes down to, I believe this is my just an opinion. It comes down to marketing.
Yeah,
People
agreed.
recognize branding with what they perceive as quality or brand loyalty, right? They can be the so it's it's a
Yeah, water's
um
100% marketing.
yeah.
110% marketing. And if you think of it in that from that perspective, in those terms, you
Hmm.
have to say to yourself, what do I look like to somebody?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
what does my company look like to somebody? Because that's how you're going to get the deals,
Yep. Yeah,
not from your tech or your offerings or your contract or your tech stack. It's all about how you are perceived by your customer.
yes. No, I agree. And that's why I tell all these guys, you need to learn to market yourself because that's what's going to generate interest. They got to learn to market themselves because 99% of the competitors are not marketing themselves. So it opens up a big window for them to generate more business, gain market share, get into a position where you can say no to businesses. Right? It might be too small. It might be a niche you don't want to get into. You've determined that this specific niche is high maintenance, right? So you want to be you want to position your organization where you can say no to and just walk away and say, hey, I only want to work with medical offices, right? Orthopedic offices or health providers, right? You want to, or maybe the insurance agency, real estate agency. So you want to be in that position because you know it so well, it's so low maintenance, it's so profitable, lucrative accounts. You want to and that's the beauty of marketing. You position yourself in such a advantageous way that you can walk away from opportunities because it's just not worth the headache. It's just not. And
Well, that's very wishful thinking. Like I said, if you have that $500 nut on your
yeah,
head,
yeah,
you can't walk away. You may have to take it because you may need to survive. Or, you may have to take a job because you have to take the job in order to pay your bills.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I know you want to walk away from some of these jobs, but you also have to take into account that if you have a good war chest, if you're making like 50%, 25% more than what taking you're profiting that. If you're profiting like 5% or 1% or breaking even, ooh, you're in danger. But if you're
yeah,
going like 10, 15, 20%, you may be able to go to a customer and say, for every dollar I have to take from you, I have to spend 75 cents
sure,
or
sure,
80 cents. And you're saying that's not going to put me in any better position than I would be if I didn't take your job. I might have to do more work on my part, which may decrease the amount of profit right there to 1 to 5%. If you're making 1 to 5% on a job, you might want to tell your okay, this takes us into another little a longer conversation. If you're going to make 1 to 5% on a job right now, or you're going to make 10 to 15% or 25% on a job tomorrow, don't take the jobs today because you're waiting for the job from tomorrow to make you enough money, to achieve those profit margins.
sure, sure.
That's an insanely hard proposition because I'll tell you why. There is no job tomorrow.
Yep, yep,
You think there is because you're a salesperson. You are always thinking about tomorrow and the jobs and the contracts. When you're in operations, there are no tomorrow jobs. You can't think about them. You can't plan for them. You can't be even aware of them. If anyone even tells you there are tomorrow jobs, you have to say, go away. Stop telling me about nothing. I only know about today jobs, and I only know about jobs I have to try to maximize profit on now.
yeah, yeah. No, it makes sense. That makes sense. I've spoken with IT firms that are adamant about their niches. They don't want to work with other organizations. They're like, hey, I'm the expert in this area, and that's all. That's all I want to work with. I'll say no to other business. So for you to say it's wishful thinking, no, there's businesses that are doing it,
I
and they
know. Crazy.
and yeah, and I applaud it because you have to take a stance. You got to have the nuts to do it because if you don't, you're going to be you're gonna put yourself in a position that you'll never become that expert in a specific niche. And I think that's important. I think it's important for IT firms to take that stand, because there's two, the competitors are doing exactly the opposite. So I truly believe, and this is my frame of mind, I would rather work with a firm that can solve my problem in 10 minutes than work with a firm that's going to take 10 hours. Right. And I've come across that with prospects that say no to me. They're like, no, we're going to go with the cheaper firm. And I'm like, okay, great. Let me call you back in 6 months to see how happy you are. And I'm not saying it's 100% of the time, but I will say that 10 to 20% of the time they're like, yeah, we're gonna want to revisit our conversation because we're just not happy. We're not happy with our choice because they're not solving problems quickly. They have terrible communication, and there's a reason for companies being less expensive. There's a reason for that. You have to eventually take a stand on what direction you want to take your organization in. And it might take you 5-10 years to get to that point, but I believe it'll be worth it.
Well, I believe in your ivory tower with all your little, your ivory tower buddies. That's fine. Like I said, if you have a cushion, if you have a war chest, if you have some sort of a blockbuster customer who's your brother-in-law, you know, go for it.
Yeah,
Tell people to go blow smoke or give high prices, because you can. You can maximize, if you're coming from a position of strength,
yeah,
you can tell people. I've seen people do this. I'm not taking any new customers. It's
yeah.
like when I heard this, I'm stunned. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they come back and say, well, to give our current customers the highest level of quality of service possible, we aren't going to take more customers on because it would put a burden on us, and blah blah blah. And I'm all, okay, I'll take that customer.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll take them.
Um,
But I get it where they're coming from. They're right. You
yeah,
will have a service degradation because you're stretching your current resources thinner. They're going to give less, tech support, great tech support to your people. So there's there's a lot here to chew
oh
on.
yeah. The topic is endless. It's endless. I
Endless,
mean,
endless.
hey, I got to wrap things up because I got another call I got to prepare
All right,
for. But
all right.
this is a good conversation. So,
Yeah, let's post this on the site and have people, or your group or whatever, and have people listen to it.
all right, all right.
All
Have a
right,
good one. I'll talk to you
you
later.
too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to sign up to be a member on www.mspcorner.com. Please share our link with a CEO who will find our information beneficial to their business. Have an awesome day.